So we're going to get into a video, and we're going to watch the video of her, Mrs. Daniels, talking about what led to her deciding to take Brutus's life. You heard what I said. Brutus Perry was a pastor, and he lost his life by the hands of Mrs. Daniels, who decided to take his life. Now, to give you a quick breakdown, this happened in April 4th, 2019. Daniels, which is the woman, the adulteress, she went to Perry's apartment. This is the man who is also married. Both parties are married. And the wife knew Mrs. Daniels. She was very familiar because they both went into the same church back where they were from in Little Rock. So when Daniels went to their apartment, the wife let her in. As they were walking out, Daniels pulled a gun out. So Daniels and the wife are walking out. She pulls a gun out and she shoots Brutus Perry several times. And she also shoots the wife in the shoulder. Based off of the testimony, the wife said she shielded her husband with her body. And Mrs. Daniels allegedly continued to shoot. Well, it's not alleged because we're going to get into the testimony and she admits to what she did. Police say that she even reloaded her gun and tried to fight the officers to get away. So she was not done. Pastor Perry died from his gunshot wounds. Remember, I told you both of their lives were forever affected. And all of this could have been avoided if we had only been faithful to God's word and faithful to the covenants that we had made with the people that we say we love. God does not give us rules and laws because he doesn't want us to be happy, because he doesn't want us to experience great things. That's not why he gives us these rules and these laws. He does us to govern us so that we can live a long, prosperous life. But we can't live a long, prosperous life if we're out here doing things that we should not be doing, like having affairs. When she had her trial, which just happened this year, 2025, Daniels said she and Pastor Perry had been in a secret relationship for years. And she testified that the affair began when she was getting counseling from him in Little Rock at the church that they were attending. He told her that he had an open marriage and he claimed his wife was okay with it. So we're going to get a little bit into polygyny because there is a way, according to scriptures, how these things can be authorized by God. But there's a way that you have to do it. In her case, she would not be eligible for polygyny because she is already a married woman. That would be considered adultery. You cannot vet a married woman and make her your wife. Now, this conversation, we're not going to have a debate on, is polygyny lawful? Is it done away? We're not having that conversation today. That could be another conversation for another time. But we are going to look at the scriptures that involve polygyny and see how, if possible, it could have been done. Now, right here, according to Mrs. Daniels, she's saying allegedly, because this was her testimony, everything that's being said in regards to what she said is alleged. Mr. Perry is not here to defend himself. He's not here to say, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, because she chose to take his life that day. But we're going to go off of what she is saying, and we're going to use her statement, and we're going to go through the scriptures and see. And I can tell you now that she is not eligible in any way to be a participant of polygyny because she is already a married woman. But nonetheless, according to her, allegedly, she claims that he said, I'm in an open marriage. And he claims that his wife was okay with it. He set strict rules for their relationship, including using an app that deleted the messages and making her call him yes, sir, and no, sir, and things of that nature. And the wife denies very strongly anything about an affair or an open marriage. She says, I was not okay with this. I did not know about this, and I'm not fine with that. And I just wanted to put that out there because it's only fair that we allow the wife, who also got shot, but thank God survived, also testified to some of these allegations. Now, as far as Daniel's marital status, the woman who took Perry's life, Daniel said that she was deeply hurt when the pastor ended their relationship. She claims she brought the gun to take her own life, not to kill him. So her thing is, look, I was so depressed and so stressed when he rejected me and he no longer wanted to participate in this relationship that she wanted to kill herself. But when we talk about her marital status, at some point, Mrs. Daniels was a married woman as well. And she divorced her husband and she continued a relationship with Mr. Perry. Now, I can't sit here and say that she divorced her husband to be with Mr. Perry, but we have to kind of look at it this way. They had a relationship and then she divorces her husband and then she continues the relationship with Mr. Perry. And in her own testimony, in her own statement, she said it was certain things that they could not explore and could not do. Why? Because he told her she needed to get divorced. When you look at all these different culminations and all these different pieces, you can see that most likely this woman was most likely manipulated into thinking that she could be happy again. She could have a relationship with him. His wife is open to it. She's okay with it. We could be in this polygyny relationship and I don't have to deal with the unhappiness within my marriage. And we'll get into her testimony and you will see where she talks about how that was the whole reason how she met Mr. Perry. So with all these different things culminating, I'm leaving my husband, and this is just my comments, I'm leaving my husband to go pursue a relationship with a married man to hopefully maybe participate in a polygyny relationship. And then after I leave him, you decide you don't want me anymore. So now her mental state is not going to be where it needs to be. So she bought a gun to take her own life. And if this is true, this shows the unstableness of her mental state. When the shooting happened, she was overwhelmed. She was confused and only remembered pieces of what actually happened. And there were psychologists that said that she suffered from a major depression and she suffered from personality disorder traits, an emotional problem, which stemmed from her childhood and the trauma and the abuse that she took on from her father, allegedly, from her testimony, who was also a man, quote unquote, a man of God. Again, I don't know if he is or if he isn't, but this is a state that she's saying. Now, if he was abusing her, it's hard for you to believe, okay, this man is a man of God, but he's out here abusing and mistreating his own daughter while wearing the cloth and saying God is good. This is hypocrisy. But that's why I say alleged and quote unquote, because this is what she's saying. Now, the court outcome of this whole situation. Daniels was originally charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and using a gun during a felony. The jury instead found her guilty of second-degree murder and reckless endangerment from shooting the wife. So she actually got a lower charge than the first degree, because you're looking at life in prison and no parole, and then the attempted murder. So she will be sitting in prison for a very long time, but she has an opportunity to live again. And this is grace and mercy being shown on her, which kind of shows me that the jury may have believed, in fact, that she was manipulated, that she was distraught, and that she was taken advantage of by Mr. Perry, which caused her to momentarily lose her mind and do something extremely egregious, like taking this man's life. Now, I want to get into some of the biblical rules and regulations of polygyny, but before we do that, I think enough conversation was definitely made about her. And I think that it's only just and fair that we allow her to speak out of her own mouth. So let's get into the video, and then we're going to go into some biblical reading as far as what polygyny was, what was acceptable when participating in this particular action. And again, I am not sitting here trying to convince you to participate or that it is lawful or not lawful. That is another conversation for another day. But we are going to use the biblical scriptures to see if these two individuals was following that rule. So let's get into the video.
Our leader.
Would you consider y'all's group to have been a close group?
We were very close. Did you become close with Pastor Perry through that group?
I did.
Is that why you reached out to him for spiritual counseling?
Yes, I trusted him.
Now I want to talk to you about that counseling, okay? When you approached Brodus Perry about counseling, did you explain why you wanted counseling?
I did.
What did you tell him?
I told him that my husband and I were having some marital issues, and I just needed to figure out spiritually which direction I just needed some spiritual guidance on direction.
See, now that's right there is a clear sign of a problem. And we talked about this in another conversation that we had. When we are bypassing our husbands, I get it. We have issues. Sometimes you feel you can't talk to them. But when we're bypassing our husbands and we're deciding to go solo, to go talk to a man of God, because he's going to somehow help us in our situation, a lot of times it does not end well. This married woman should not have gone to this man by herself to go have this secret conversation about her problems in her marriage. Especially if this is true, if her story is true, this man eventually takes advantage of her vulnerability within her marriage.
Did Pastor Perry agree to meet with you?
He did.
Where did y'all meet?
We met in my office.
Why?
I didn't feel comfortable with being in the church, and I wanted to be in a safe space because this was, again, something that I was not fully embracing, that I had to deal with, and I wanted to be in a space where I knew that I can be able to be vulnerable.
During the first counseling session, what did you discuss?
Everything that was going on within my marriage.
Telling all her business,
How long
confiding in him.
counseling session?
It was about 2 hours.
Were you emotional during that process?
Yes,
Were you open?
I was.
Did you tell him very personal, private things?
I did.
See, and this is what I'm talking about. These women in these churches are very vulnerable. And a lot of these men in these churches, they take advantage of this. This is a married woman inviting a man, you could say a man of God, whatever you want to call it, to her office at work to have a private conversation so she can indulge all her inner feelings and her inner thoughts. This is very dangerous.
How long, well, at the end of that session, did you determine at that time that you were going to ask for a second session?
Yes.
How long until you had a second session?
It was approximately 2 to 3 weeks before the next one.
Did it feel good to get all of that off of your chest?
You probably
Yes.
Did you reach out to Brodus Perry for a second counseling session?
I did.
Did he say that he would come do a second counseling session?
He did.
When you had your second counseling session, did you ask him about any odd behavior?
I just want to point something out real quick. Let's say they had the first session, right? Fine. Why didn't Mr. Perry advise for her to bring her husband to the second session? Now that he kind of got a idea of the relationship from her standpoint, you're trying to repair this relationship. Why not tell her, hey, you reach out to me for the second one, fine, but make sure your husband's there. I kind of want to speak to him as well, kind of see how we can mend your relationship. But instead, he decides to go meet her again for the second time privately.
From the first session?
I did.
What was that?
In the first session, from the moment he walked through the door, he had his hands in his coat pocket, his jacket pocket, and he sat there the entire time during the session with his hands in his pocket. So I found that to be a little strange, but I didn't say anything in the first session. So I asked him during the section session, because he came in and he didn't have his hands in his pocket. And I was like, what was that with you having your hands in your pockets? And at that time, he told me it was because he was trying to maintain his professionalism.
See, right there is a cue. He's putting the bait out to her. Oh, I'm trying to maintain my professionalism. This is a vulnerable woman that's having a really rough time in her marriage. She is seeking guidance. She is seeking instructions. She is seeking wisdom to help save her relationship or help her relationship or figure out what she needs to do spiritually within this marriage. And he's throwing out little hints. Hey, I'm trying to stay professional. What are you trying to, again, allegedly this is her testimony. If this is true, what are you trying to say? You so fine, baby. I can't even focus because your beauty's blinding me. So I just was trying to stay professional, baby. This is manipulation. Again, if her testimony is true, this is her story. This is not my story. If this story is true, this is the type of manipulation that takes place in churches all the time. Big, little, small churches. I've seen it a million times. They take advantage of these women that are vulnerable in these relationships or that don't have any relationship at all and not used to a man's attention nor affection. And these men take full advantage of it.
Was that the first time that you had any indication that he might be interested in you?
That was the first time.
Did you proceed to start with the second counseling session?
We did.
What happened after you started the counseling session?
As I was talking and sharing, Brodus reached over and grabbed, I had a 2-arm chair, and he pulled me toward him and began to passionately kiss me. And from there, in that session, we did have sex for the first time.
Committed adultery.
After your counseling sessions, did you end up getting divorced?
That was in February, and I did end up getting divorced in December of that year.
So this counseling session didn't help at all. She went to him to seek instruction and to seek counseling, and instead she got to get between his legs. He got to get between hers. So it went from him supposedly supposed to help her, being a church leader, her being vulnerable. And again, I'm not saying she's this damsel in distress victim. This is a married woman who made a covenant before God, who decided to reach out to this man and indulge all her secrets and her insecurities. And he decided to give her a little bit of attention, and she took it hook, line, and sinker and just gave up the goodies. And in the end, instead of repairing a marriage and a covenant before God, the marriage was destroyed. And again, this is not the first time.
That's when it was finalized?
Yes.
And did Pastor Perry encourage you to get divorced?
We talked about it, and there were times whenever we would be on trips, he would make mention of, oh, we can't do that until you get a divorce, or we can't do this until you get a divorce.
Okay. How would you describe y'all's relationship at the beginning?
At the beginning, it was, I'm gonna have to say, amazing.
Look how she's smiling.
Beautiful. He showed me so much attention. We did all kind of things together. It was, look
at her facial expressions as she's remembering him. Look at the gaze in her eyes and the small comforter smile that she's expressing on her face. She looks like she's enjoying talking about the good times that they had. I truly believe that she was truly in love with this man. If it is true that he was telling her, we can't do this and we can't do that unless you get divorced, if this is true, then that means she left her husband to be with him. And if it is true that he told her that I don't want you anymore, this could be a major reason why she crashed out. I sacrificed so much to be with you. I've thrown away an entire marriage to be with you. And now you don't want me anymore? I'm not saying that it's right what she did. I'm not saying she should have took his life. But what I am saying is, if this testimony is true, the manipulating, the taking advantage of people, this is a dangerous game that no one should play.
Like, even we jailed intellectually. It was a great relationship.
Everything that you didn't have before? Everything
I didn't have before. Even to the fact I show up in my office and he had me a dozen of roses sent to me. It was just like everything that I wanted, everything that I even shared with him that I didn't have, he was giving it to me.
Did you also give him things?
I did.
What kind of things did Brodus like?
As the relationship progressed, he got into cigars, and that was a big thing for him, to the point to where he had someone to draw him up a logo, and then I selected the name, so he became the Smoking Savant. And so the more expensive the cigar, the better for him. Then it went from cigars to bourbon, and he had to have the best of the bourbons.
Did you buy him the best of the bourbons?
Yes, I did.
Did you buy him the best of cigars?
I did.
Did you buy him other things?
He wanted this Toomey briefcase for work. I think it was like $400. I got him that. He was working out, and so he needed more workout clothes, and so I purchased him like $400 worth of gear in Nike gear. There was a time when he wanted to redo his closet and get some things organized, and I bought all the organization things to make sure that whatever he needed, I did it so that he could be good.
And all these things that she's saying sounds like wife qualities to me. It sounds like wife qualities. She was in love with this man. She wanted to be with this man. She invested in him. She invested in his desires. She invested in his goals. She even talks about how she helped change his resume so he can get another position at a different church. She invested a lot. She threw away her entire marriage that she was trying to fix. That was the whole point of her going to speak to him. And remember what the Bible says. Sin leads to death. She went looking for help, ended up losing her marriage, and now investing herself into a man who is already married and has no prospect of marrying her, allegedly.
Did he also expect you to do that?
It got to a point to where it did become an expectation.
How did you feel about the fact that Brodus was married?
At that time, honestly, I did not think about it. I knew that we both were married, and I was engaged in what he was giving me.
Had you had any attention like that in a long time?
No, I hadn't.
Had
In
you
years.
had any emotional attention?
Not in years.
Physical attention?
Not like that. No.
I want to talk to you now about ethical non-monogamy.
So we're going to get into ethical non-monogamy. This is to me, this is a weird way of trying to condone adultery, trying to condone fornication, trying to condone a sinful lifestyle. The Bible talks about polygyny. The Bible talks about marriage covenants. I don't know anything about what they're about to get into, but listen carefully.
Okay.
Yes.
Did Brodus talk to you about ethical non-monogamy?
Yes.
Was this a lifestyle that he was interested in?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what Brodus told you about ethical non-monogamy? What is it?
It is where individuals are able to have multiple relationships, but everyone in the relationship must consent.
Did Brodus tell you that he had talked to Tabitha about ethical non-monogamy?
For people who don't know, Tabitha is Brutus Perry's wife. So she's asking her, was the wife okay with this?
He did.
Did he tell you that Tabitha had said she was comfortable with it, but he just hadn't told her about you yet?
He said that she had given him permission to be open on his side of the marriage.
So she was not allowed to be open on her side.
Correct.
But he told you that she had given him permission to go outside.
Yes.
But he had not told her about you, to your knowledge.
No, not to my knowledge.
So that's polygyny. It would be polygyny if he was not committing fornication, sleeping with women that are not his wife, and adultery, sleeping with women that already have husbands. If he was marrying these other women and doing it the correct way, and everybody was on the same page, I don't believe this would have led to murder. But because there's a lot of secrecy and we're not following to what God's standards are and how we are supposed to do things, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the Bibles and into everything where the scriptures talk about how we're supposed to handle these type of situations. But what he's talking about is straight up sin. Being able to go around and just sleeping with married women, single women, no covenant, no responsibility, no commitment. This is sin.
like, well, he would just use, he would tell me, well, you need to go and find someone. And I'd be like, I don't want anyone but you. And so he knew that that would play on like my insecurities. So one time when he said, you need to go out and find someone, I said, well, what if I do? And he said, well, then we won't be together. So he knew that was going to get to me because I wanted to be with him. I enjoyed our time together when we did have it. And so he used the emotional part, the affection. He would give it to me, withdraw it if I wasn't really complying with what he wanted.
This is control. If her testimony is true, again, this is her story. Mr. Perry's not here to tell his side of the story. This is her story. And based off of what she's saying, if it is true, he was manipulating her. He had already caused her to leave her husband. Hey, I can't be hanging out with you and we going out on vacations or whatever it is he was telling her. If you are not divorced from your husband, then she goes to divorce her husband. And then when she's trying to commit to him more seriously, allegedly based on her, oh no, you need to go find somebody else. But then if she tries, oh, then you can't be with me. This is nothing but straight up sin on top of sin on top of sin. And it is these type of behaviors and these type of decisions that we make as quote unquote believers of God that leads to death.
Since all of this has happened, have you had time to really retrospectively consider your relationship with Brodus?
Oh my God, I just wanted him to feel the pain that he was causing me. So when we got in the room, he was already in there by the time I parked and got in. And I pulled out my gun and I told him, you're about to feel the same pain that you've been giving me.
Did you ever threaten him?
No.
Did you threaten yourself?
I told him I was going to kill myself.
What did he do?
He began to tell me no, and he kept saying that he loved me and that we can fix it. And I was just like, no, you're treating me so bad. And he was just like, that's not, I love you, I love you. And eventually he talked me into putting the gun on the counter and coming over and sitting and talking to him.
Now there's more testimony as far as her getting a little bit more detail about the actual crime, but a lot of it she talks about not really remembering some of it, like she only remembers pieces. So I decided not to add it. As you can see, it was very heart-wrenching. And again, I'm not sitting here saying, oh my goodness, she's a victim, she should have did it. No, at the end of the day, you were a married woman that decided to sleep with another married woman, and when he didn't want you, you took his life. And you can't do that, but we cannot be blind to the actual situation at hand, that neither one of these individuals were following the standard in which God set before. So when we talk about biblical rules and regulations for polygyny, even though polygyny was practiced within the scriptures, and we'll get over some of the people that participated in it, Mosaic law regulated it, and there were specific rules on how we were supposed to involve ourselves into a polygyny relationship if we chose to. So it talks about provision and duty, Exodus chapter 21 verse 10. If he takes another wife, so this is the scriptures, this is the Most High saying, hey, let the men know. Exodus 21:10, if he takes another wife, her food and her clothing and her duty of marriage shall not diminish. So he cannot take another wife and then all of a sudden, well, I don't want to sleep with you, I don't want to take care of you, I don't want to provide for you, I don't want to protect you because I got my new breezy. It don't work like that. Those things must continue to be maintained within the marriage. So if he does get another wife, he can't take away from the first wife to get the second wife. And that's why most men who did not have money and certain provisions, they were not able to participate in this particular type of relationship. So again, this means that a man who marries a second wife or more, the man not reduce anything that regards the wife as far as food, clothing, and as far as her maternal rights. Inheritance was an actual thing, because remember, you got multiple wives, you're going to have multiple kids by different women. So there were rights given about inheritance. Deuteronomy chapter 21, 15 through 17. If a man has two wives, one belonging to the other unloved, and both bear him sons, but the firstborn is from the unloved wife, he must give the firstborn son his rightful inheritance, a double portion, even if he is not emotionally his favor of the wife. So if he had two marriages, and we'll talk about, the brother that married the two sisters, one, he really he worked years for her, and the other one, he kind of was set up to be with her. If she had born the first son, it doesn't matter if you had a better connection with the second wife or the first wife or whichever wife, that first son is still supposed to get his portion. So this is kind of like legal instructions on how they were supposed to do certain things when it came to participating in polygyny. 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 8, the NIV says, I give your master a house to you. And I'm saying this so you guys could see even God was on board with this, which I already read the law, but hey, 2 Samuel 12, 8. I gave your master house to you and gave your master's wives into your arm. I give you all of Israel and Judah. And if all this had not been too little, I would have given you even more. This matches the meaning of the King James Version that says, and if that had been too little, I would have moreover have given you unto thee such and such things. So God is telling David at this particular time, I give you all these wives. So God was not opposed with a man having multiple wives. Now, what Mr. Perry was doing was so out of order. Why? Because remember, we talked about adultery earlier. This was a woman that was already married, and he was taking advantage, if her testimony is true, he was taking advantage of a married woman. And that, my friend, is extremely dangerous. Now, there are many men in scriptures that participated in polygyny. We have Abraham. He married Hagar and had Sarah. Jacob, he also had multiple wives. David had multiple wives. And Solomon, we all know, had multiple wives. So there are many men in the scriptures that participated who we would consider men of God. And I don't say that sarcastically, because they were really men of God. I'm just used to saying men of God when I'm mocking these people. But these men were men of God. And they participated in these particular relationships, polygyny. And God did not condemn them for this. So what it ultimately comes down to is, if Mr. Perry decided that he was going to have a polygyny relationship, he discusses it with his wife. He cannot then recruit a woman who is already married. Then on top of choosing a woman who is already married, he then takes advantage of her, if her testimony is true. And the Bible talks about taking advantage of people. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 1 says, the Lord detests dishonesty scales. So if you're dishonest, God hates that. So you're cheating and you're manipulating. If her testimony is true and you're taking advantage of this woman who is seeking guidance, seeking help, and you're taking advantage of her so you can get your rocks off, God hates these things. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 6 says, no one should wrong or take advantage of their brother or their sister. These were people who were the member of the church. He would have considered her a sister. So this sister in Christ is saying, I am having trouble in my marriage. I am having problems in my marriage. And she comes for help. And instead, you turn her over and you give her a pounding. This is what you did. So instead of her fixing and mending her relationship, she ends up getting divorced. She ends up crashing out, trying to take her own life, and she ends up taking yours. This is sin leading to death. So no one should wrong anyone or take advantage of their brother or their sister. And then also, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 29. Do not plot harm against your neighbor who lives trustfully near you. So you don't betray or harm the people whom you trust. This was a big issue because she had trusted him. How do you know she trusted him? She came to him. She said, I'm having problems in my marriage. I'm having problems. I need help. I need spiritual guidance. I don't know what to do. And instead, what did you do? You gave her a pounding. And then what did she do? She became mentally unstable and she took your life. I'm not justifying her actions, but this conversation is about how adultery led to murder. Sin leads to death. God has a standard in which how we should live and how we should treat each other. And finding a woman that is vulnerable and taking advantage of her so you can get your rocks off. And then she crashes out and she spends the rest of her life in prison. Nobody wins. No one wins. So many lives were destroyed by this when all we had to do as believers of God is to put him first. That's all we had to do. And a lot of these conversations will continue to happen until we as supposed believers actually become obedient to God's word. So again, I think this is a great conversation for us to have, how sin leads to death, because it can start so small. It can be the littlest thing, but then it can turn into this big old thing to where now a life is lost and a life is destroyed. With that being said, put your comments below. I really want to hear from you guys.